Then there is the different cloud service providers in the market right now. Right, this is the king, correct? So we have the AWS, Amazon Web Services, which is a market leader. Now, in last 2 to 4 years, the biggest competitor to the AWS that has been in the market is going to be the Microsoft Azure. That is a kind of the number two place that it is in. Then the third one is going to be the Google Cloud itself, GCP, Google Cloud Platform, right? Apart from that, if you will remember, there is going to be the Oracle, IBM Cloud, Alibaba Cloud, Salesforce, SAP, Rackspace Cloud, and VMware. So apart from these, multiple others are also there, and some of them only provide the specific service. So remember, we were talking about the managed service provider, MSP. So many of the managed service provider will be only working as the some solution like XDR solution provider in the cloud. Okay, security as a service, right? So just providing some managed services over there. So there are the top 10 cloud services that are in there. Now, the first mistake we always do is, if you will be start thinking that you are an expert, right? So that is the first mistake you will be doing. You will stop learning things at that particular time, right? If you stop learning, you will stop evolving. You will be, you will think that no one can teach me anything. So I always keep an open mind. I am always open to learn. I know I don't know anything. I am not an expert. I know only a few basic things. Okay, I always say that. A simple example of this. Okay, why we never think that we are the expert. So you will be seeing that. Okay, one phase is when you are learning how to drive. Okay, so once you learn how to drive, where is clutch gear, what you take the judgment of the car, and you start driving around the city, right? So I'm not talking very initial learning phase. After initial learning phase, when you go alone, first time when you are not with anyone, just by yourself, and you start, driving. So what you are being very very careful, right? And in that phase, if you have seen, uh, I learned the driving from my Masaji, right? My uncle. So he always say, that when you are a new driver, you will see rarely a new driver going ahead and having some accident, right? And you will be hearing that he was in the fastest speed, and just because we live in a hilly area, right? Hill area. So yeah, a lot of cases of people going down to the gorge, okay, different gorge, people falling. So you never hear such kind of the accident because he's very careful, right? He's learning. And the day the driver, they think they know everything, and they are kind of an expert, the accident will start happening. So same thing here as well. I am just like you. I am also a learner, right? I am just here to sit. So even though I am in this particular scenario, I am just a speaker. I am giving you guys my facts. What is my understanding? If I am wrong in my understanding, I would like you guys to go come forward and tell Rishabh, you are wrong in this place, and you might want to correct this thing, so that instead of, if I will be keep saying that wrong thing, so I might be telling the same wrong thing to someone else as well. So if you will be correcting me, what will happen? Benefit. So you correct me, I will accept my mistake, I will learn something new, I will be going ahead, and I will be sharing that, correct knowledge with someone else, so someone else will be benefiting from that as well. So you didn't only just help me, you helped multiple people at the same time. Okay, so this is the kind of a simple life fact. Okay, nothing to do with your course curriculum, but let's just go ahead. Right, now, advantages of cloud computing. So this honeycomb structure kind of a thing, I personally like it on the Azure book, right? So if you will be asking about this, so these are the some of the advantages. Okay, so this is something that we have already discussed in a jiffy kind of a thing, right? So there is these are the some factors. If we are talking about that, what are the benefits of the cloud? So these are the some simple things. So you can see high availability, scalability, right? So I think everyone understand the availability, right? That you have a solution which will be available to you all the time. If I want to learn or do anything, that is always going to help me out over here. So what I have, high availability. Then with the high availability, what else I am having? Scalability, elasticity, which I keep rambling about all the time. So scalability is kind of a scenario where you are able, like I was saying, suddenly there was a lot of traffic coming your way, or CPU users. So you were using 80%, like you were running some batch process. Suddenly it reaches to a point where 80% start hitting, right? So for handling that much of a traffic, I would be requiring another machine, or I need to increase the same machine's RAM capacity, CPU capacity. So I have to do something like that, right? Take some of these decision itself. So when we are talking about these things, what is going to happen when I'm talking that, you will be requiring something like this. So for that, I will be requiring to scale the things, right? Same thing when we are talking about these kind of a scenario. Okay, that is a scalability. So, remember I was telling you that earlier what we used to do is we need to drop those messages that, this is going to be, sorry, the document. We are going to, in future, we will be requiring this kind of a service. So, this thing you need to be an approval and all these kind of a thing. A very longer story. So application in the cloud, they can be scaled, right? Or the resources can be scaled. So instead of that one machine, I might be requiring that two machine which is doing the same task, right? Two VM, they share the CPU's batch process and work it. So there are two things that you can scale. You can either scale vertically or the horizontally. Okay, so vertical is you are increasing the capacity by adding that additional RAM. Okay, vertical. So what you did, if it was having 8 gigs of RAM, you increase it to the 16, right? That is the scalability. Vertical scalability. From, if it was having two virtual CPU cores, you made it like the four virtual CPU cores, right? This is going to be in there. In horizontal, what you are doing, you are increasing the capacity by adding the instance. Like if I was having a machine which was having 8 RAM and two virtual CPU, I created another machine with the 8 gigs of RAM and two virtual CPU and share the load between them, right? So that is the horizontal way, right? So this is something that you can do. Now elasticity, the all those application they can configure to take advantage of the auto scaling. This is simply the scaling, increasing thing, concept of it. Now, when you start using these kind of the concept of scalability with the help of the features like auto scaling, okay, something like this you are doing. So what is going to be in this particular scenario? Uh, it is cloud-based application or resources that can be configured to take advantage of auto scaling. So your application will always have the resources what they need. That is going to be the elasticity, means how quickly in the changing demand suddenly you were requiring this thing, right? A more CPU power, more processing power. And so, let's say that it was that you created an automation rule. So it did what? It deployed another VM. But what will happen? Let's say that task is complete. Now you need to come back to that original state, right? Because what is VM? Remember, pay as you go. Sorry, you have to pay for the services which you will be using. If I deploy two VMs, I'm paying for the two VM. It's good up to the point where that 80% traffic was there, and I just reduce it down to 40%. Now in total, let's say at some time only 10% of the traffic is remaining. Now that can be easily handled by one VM. So I don't want myself to income and incur any additional charges. So elasticity will be taking the advantages of that scalability, quickly doing scale in, scale out, depending on the situation. That will be the elasticity, using the feature of the scalability. Use that feature. That is the elasticity over there. So we were talking about in the cross cutting that it should be fault tolerant kind of thing, how it is going to maintain under the any duress or anything, how it is going to maintain that kind of the if it is under a lot of pressure, how it is going to maintain the services, how good it can handle the traffic. That is going to be the part. Then there is going to be the things like the agility. Okay, so agility is when I was talking that you can quickly provision and deprovision. So cloud-based resources can be deployed and configured quickly as application requirement changes. So whatever changes it required, it can be configured accordingly. So if I required a testing environment, quickly I can create it from a template, task is done, delete it from there. That would be the agility that is there. Then one other thing, our cloud services or data center, they are spread all across the globe. So if I am seeing that my customers are usually from the US, or if I'm a US customer, what I can do, I can deploy resources on the, let's say, in the East US. So I have a global reach. Plus it will be helping you with the customer's latency capability because my resource is there. So what it will be facing, it will be facing less of a challenge over there, right? That it need to go ahead and it need to work with this one. So customer latency capability. Then there is going to be the one more thing, that is going to be the you know your disaster recovery and then predictive cost consideration. So disaster recovery is, backing up is easy. So BCDR, that business continuity disaster recovery, is going to be there. So just in case one site is down, there are a lot of things of how you can take easily backup, storing in the cloud. So if anything happen, easily from the cloud, I can go ahead and just get my backup and start working again, right? That is there. There is going to be the predictive cost consideration. So in Azure or AWS, what we have an estimation kind of a thing, that what you are going to get as the charges and all those kind of things. We can control the cost, we can put a banner in there, so those kind of things are there. Plus security is always kind of a feature. So inbuilt security solution operation you will be having, right? So a lot of these things will be running onto this one. And when we are talking about the advantages, so biggest advantage is when I go for the very fundamental courses. And trust me, I'm starting with something very fundamental I know regarding the cloud, and that is the reason in here. So we start with basic, start with infra, start incorporating security, and then keep moving ahead.